everybody's really excited.
Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this first stream about motion design. And I am Michael Chaz. We are live from San Francisco. I am today with Evan.
Hello.
Hello. And we will have multiple guests. So welcome to YouTube Live. And please use the chat because you really have this unique opportunity to engage and ask questions to all these motion designers, starting with Evan. So that's great. And we have some people, look at that. We have Sarah, we have Teroni Medeiros, we have Akshay, David. So that's great. Thanks for being with us. We have the chat right in front of us, so we really don't want to miss your questions.
Yeah, we can see them live.
Yeah.
Live as they happen.
And yeah.
Terrific.
That's live. That's it. It's the first time we are doing an interactive class. Is it your first live stream too?
Yes, this is. So I'm nervous. Please be kind to me, everybody out there.
Be kind.
On the internet. That's a big ask, but yeah.
And this is part of the motion design live stream, so maybe we can explain what this is. If you go on adobelive.com, you will have the full schedule. But we start with Evan. We'll be with Evan for 3 days, so he will be back tomorrow and also on Thursday. If you visit adobelive.com, you will see that now Evan is live. Thank you, PHP. Thank you. And then you have all these great speakers. So Evan, and then within 2 hours will be with Chris, who will talk about how to create a cinematic look for your footage in After Effects. Then we will welcome Vincent and Nguyen from Creative Dojo, who will explain how to script in After Effects. And Mikey Baruch from Cinema Spice will also be live with us. And we will end the day with Sarah Dichi, who has a YouTube channel. She will explain how she edits her YouTube shows and also like the big shows such as Creative Space TV, because she's the manager of this show. So it should be great. Thanks for being with us. Hey, Pishad, good to see you. We have Abu Bakar. Maybe you can tell us in the chat where you are from, because
that could be helpful.
Yeah, we like to get this overview of demographics. It's always cool. And Evan, maybe you want to explain what you will talk about this morning.
Sure. So today, thank you for tuning in with your breakfast or if you're in a different time zone. But today we're going to talk about flat design and what that means in After Effects. So specifically, we're looking at sort of that 2.5D, not 3D stuff. We're going to be using all 2D stuff, but we're going to be showing the illusion of depth with flat design.
So what you mean by 2.5D is that you use 2 dimensions, but you fake 3D.
That's right.
It's like isometric games, I remember.
Yeah, these techniques have been used for a long time.
Okay.
And we see it a lot in print because you want things to have depth even when it's in print. But all of these flat design ideas that come from sort of a user experience design. They come from non-moving things. We see a lot of these ideas and these forms requested in a moving space. Which I don't want to be too technical, but there are 3 dimensions because time is a dimension. But we can talk about that later.
Yeah, and also what's interesting is that flat design really started as a trend in the web industry.
Yes,
and I come from the Flash world. I know you too. You did some Flash animations, but now, if you want to animate something on a website, you just put a video. It was very difficult 10 years ago because it was super heavy. But today, more and more motion designers are asked to create animations for websites, and it makes sense to keep the same style.
That's right. As these things become more and more intersected with each other, it's very important to keep these ideas in mind. And the other thing is that as a design concept, as a design trend takes off in one space, it'll start to pervade into the other ones, just because we see logos in a certain way, then you need to animate those logos, or So it's brand identity. It's tying all these things together. So
and look at all these guys. All these people like
around
live from all around the world, like Philippines, India, Germany, Italy. I saw Finland, Poland, Brazil, so all the continents in this live stream. Thanks for joining. That's great. And please use the chat to ask questions. Maybe Evan, you want to show some animations you created, just so we understand what you mean by flat design.
So when we're talking about flat design, we're going to be looking at things that are. You'll notice there are no lines on them, for example. So
you mean strokes?
That's right. So no strokes on here. There are no there's no like effects that you would see, so we're not doing any of
Like
these
no-
bevel and emboss. We're not doing a lot of
yeah.
drop shadows out here. When we do shadows, it's usually what we call the long shadow. It's sort of the buzzword
Yeah.
that people like. So what we're doing is basically we're using a lot of big, full, just blocks, big, full vector geometry to make these things happen. And so, for example, is the envelope up on the screen? Great. So you can see we know by observing this,
Yeah.
this envelope has depth because this area is in shadow, these areas not so much in
Yeah.
shadow, and this one is bright. If we take it all the way back to the beginning, though, it all starts as the same color as the background. So this is sort of just an example to say, how do we differentiate things that are on a plane? How do we give something character and texture? And then how do we do something with it? So as the flap comes up, the color needs to change because logically we're
Nice.
going from one form to another. And then, again, we see when we have this letter come out, we know that the letter is inside because it overlaps here. We know that the letter is curving because the one part is in front of the other. And even though if we were doing this in like a true 3D, if we were simulating the paper would need to fold towards us. It would need to get larger. But that's not part of the flat design aesthetic, right?
Okay.
It doesn't need to cast a whole bunch of shadows. We need a lighting source. We're just faking it. So I like to say simplify, don't simulate, all right, in these things. Because it might seem, oh, it's so complex to make this paper do this thing. But what's really happening is, if you look at the shapes that we're doing, what's really going on is we have just this shape, and then we've got a mask, another shape that's coming over it and
okay.
revealing it.
Nice.
So it's not one paper that curves. It's one, piece of paper. It's one layer that comes up and seems to curve, and another one that completes the motion. So
So Evan is deconstructing a sample file, but also he will show you also how to create this kind of animation from scratch.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people all around the world. I mean, it's amazing. Thank you, guys. There was even Harsh Gupta who said, "I'm waiting for you for 2 days."
Oh, that's how time works.
There was
It's rough.
there was a countdown. Like you don't have to to stay in front of the screen. Like you won't miss it. But thanks for being with us.
I like that dedication, though. That's wonderful.
And if someone says doesn't get the video, I guess you just have to refresh. That's easy. I am in the chat actually, so I can also directly answer you in the chat.
Perfect.
So Evan, I'll let you.
Good.
show.
So this is one way of showing depth, is having different colors. Another thing, though, if we just look at, here's a really basic example of this is a circle, right? And if anyone's taken like art, fine art, that kind of thing, a circle, it could be many things. That circle might be the end of a cylinder. The circle might be a sphere. How do we show that? Well, here we just have the basic outlines of two things. One of them is a circle. The other one appears to be like a pill of some kind, right?
A what?
Like a pill, or maybe it could be anything. We don't have enough information just looking at a still
Yeah.
here to say what
I
is
don't know
it,
what it is.
right?
No.
But when we give it motion, when the thing comes up and then it goes like that, we can infer from its motion that one is orbiting the other,
Yeah.
right?
Like the moon.
That's right, just
Yeah.
like the moon. Of course, the other challenge with staring at the moon is the Earth rotating around the moon? Which of us is moving?
Yeah, we won't answer
No.
this
So,
today.
but the thing is with this motion is that we're able to show with subtle changes that as this moves away from us, it gets smaller back there, and then it starts to get larger as it comes back around. And also the speed of the motion is important. That, if something is translating right to left at a linear speed, that tells us something about its relationship to the other objects that are in motion. So just from a basic perspective, we call that parallax, which is when objects in the foreground appear to be moving faster than objects in the background. So if we want to show depth, we need to keep that in mind. But we can start adding things in. Like if we just drop a couple shadows on here, that's telling us a second layer of information about what are these things. It has a shadow, the shadow moves, so we're also describing the lighting scenario that's happening, right? Again, nothing's 3D. These are all 2D layers. There's nothing super interesting about too many of them. It's got a mild amount of keyframes. So there's not a terrible amount of work that needs to go into too many of them. And then there's a third layer of information we could say. If there are shadows, shouldn't it also have shading, right? And this is kind of a fine line, because in flat design, you want to usually strip away a lot of the it's not useless information, but the unessential information. Flat design is about not only flatness in terms of the things are physically flat or they appear flat, but it's also an idea that things are simple, that we're telling more with less. So in this case, 3 layers are making up one thing that we want to say about this, but we could get by with just 2 of them. We could just
Would you mind setting the zoom to fit so we can get thanks.
There we go.
Much better.
Get it nice and big.
Looks great.
Because we can say...
So you use vectors?
These are all
shapes,
vectors. These are all shape layers. I've made them all.
The power of vectors.
It's math. Math is the best.
Yeah, and some people are asking, will there be a replay? Yes, there will be a replay available on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. So, hi, Priska. Oh, good to see you. So this would be great if you... I will invite you to subscribe to the Creative Cloud YouTube channel. First, because you will be notified when a new stream will start, and also when a replay is available. So all the great content that Evan is sharing will be available on the channel. And if you want to check the full schedule, I will put the link now. It's on adobelive.com.
And I just want to touch on something that Brad is mentioning there about infographics, kinetic text, and animated graphs. Flat design lends itself very easily to these things. Graphs are very simple things. We're looking at pie graphs, which are circles. We've got bar graphs, which are just a bunch of lines. And if you want to take those lines and you want to give them depth, we can use flat design to do that very simply. So these are going to solve a lot of problems in those spaces. But infographics have really sprung up around this flat design concept, mostly in print and web. And a lot of people want to take... Sometimes you have a client that's like, here's an infographic, why don't you just animate this for us? So that's essentially some of those problems we're going to solve today. So we've talked about using color, we've talked about using these shadows and stuff. Something else that's important, we talked about long shadows, so we're going to cover long shadows in here.
Oh, nice.
And specifically, the long shadows can be complex, and they don't have to be complex. There are many methods to make long shadows. Some of them are very resource intensive on the hardware, even for shadows. It can happen, depending on the complexity of the method. This method that we're doing right here is a bunch of shape layers again. Look at this, very simple. Shape layers making up all of the stuff, showing just the sides that you need to have done. Like you don't need, let's get in there real close and see, you don't really need that much to make this happen. You could do it by stacking a whole bunch of drop shadows on top of each other, right? You could do it by using the repeater, which we will do in this example, because if I had to
what is the repeater?
Good question. So the repeater is something...
I'm asking because I'm ignorant.
Right. But
I'm here, I'm like you, I'm here to learn some stuff.
Well, we will cure you of your ignorance today, which will be great. So these dials here, we have basically one shape that's defining, we got a circle, we got some rectangles, we're defining one instance there. And then if we go, we got the dial shadow here, where we have all the same parts, and we'll keep going.
And as you're looking at, we have a question from Tari. Thanks for asking questions. Those flat shapes render quicker than 3D methods. That's a good question.
Yep, it can. Well, that really depends.
Yeah.
Because
how many shapes, I guess.
Well, the other thing is that if you're doing things purely in After Effects, 2D will always be faster because you would have to bump out to Cinema 4D, or if you're using something like that, right?
So actually, we just announced something. I'm not a big expert on this, but my understanding is that in the next release of After Effects, there will be the Cinema 4D rendering engine directly. Like you can call it from After Effects and render your 3D animation.
Exactly.
But just for some effects, not all of them. I think some 3D properties.
So if you were doing sort of this cell shaded look, is what it would be called in a 3D environment, it's doing a lot of complex calculations in there. Whereas this is doing almost no calculations. So you can see, I mean, when you're comparing, 1 to 10, 10 is still not a high number, but it's way higher than 1. So what we're doing with the repeater, for example, in this case, we have the hands of a clock that are moving. I don't want to spend a lot of time going in each frame, adjusting the shadow. So I've used a repeater to say, let's look at this dial. Let's look at this dial shape. Why don't you just give me 25 copies, move each of them one over and one down. So yes, it's 25 times harder than rendering one thing, but it's only 25. And it's only these small vectors, right? Again, it's bigger. 10 is bigger than 1. But 10 is still kind of a small number.
It's not 1,000.
Yeah, if you have a...
And we have your biggest fan.
Fantastic.
Tin Lee.
Well, how's it going? I'm glad you came out.
Maybe he's not the biggest. We will see in the chat if there are
we're
bigger
going to
fans.
find out.
Just let us know in the chat if you are like a big fan or not.
Absolutely.
But thanks for joining.
So here...
So that's the repeater. That's a nice technique for shadows. I mean...
For a shadow on a complex shape, we'll say. So,
okay.
So the idea here is that with this clock, the outside of the clock, we can do that drop, we can do that shadow.
Like a rectangle.
We got a rectangle, we got two circles, that's it. We got the inside of the clock, we got a little shadow in there, but again, rectangle, circles, and that's it. The repeater is doing all the work for complex things. If I bumped that up and say, give me 256 things are going to start to grind, which is not good. But the idea is that if you can kind of make the decisions for yourself, what is important to put your hardware resources into, then you can start to make those choices. So shadows, in overview, shadows, we're going to make some shadows. Another thing we're going to do, here's sort of a larger piece. We have a circle, which then appears to be the top of a can. So here we're using motion to tell you this is a cylinder, not a rectangle. So the idea here is that we can infer the geometry of this piece because unlike in print design, we have that third dimension of time that we talked about, that by using how we got to a shape, we can inform people's minds about the patterns that they should expect that shape to follow. And we're also able to manipulate those expectations of people. So that's kind of a higher end thing, but I mean, that's why you come to the live stream, to learn the deep stuff. That in this one, we're combining shadows, shading, and time.
Nice.
So if we then later had a hand come and grab this, our minds would sort of infer that hand must be three-dimensional because this is also three-dimensional. And it adds a little bit of depth to what you're creating. Let's see, what else we got going on? Another thing where we use the idea of motion is like here with this fun laptop. So we have this laptop come into frame and the lid opens, right? How do we know the lid is opening rather than...
Yeah.
And then this pencil rolls in, which is pretty great.
Just thinks your shadow. It's your shadow, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So the shadow is telling us that.
And the logo, too.
The logo is telling us that because it's scaling. And the other thing that's telling us that is that this is actually larger on this edge, that it's going subtly, gotta zoom in. It's subtly getting larger as it expands. And that's telling us, again, another thing about how to make a splash of water.
And someone is asking a good question about, I wanted to know when Premiere is better than After Effects. So actually there will be a session by Mikey.
Yes.
Just on that topic. It will be later today, but this is when you should work in After Effects over Premiere Pro. So he will take several examples. Both are very complementary. I mean, and for this kind of work, this in Premiere is just impossible.
So Premiere does have the ability to keyframe certain things. You can make masks, but at this level, Premiere, think of the difference between Premiere and After Effects as horizontal versus vertical. So here we are piling a bunch of things vertically on top of each other to create one thing, whereas in Premiere, then Premiere is sort of you're laying things out horizontally to create a long thing. That's sort of
nice. That's
how I like to think about it.
And we have some questions about your choice of color palette.
Oh, wow.
So if you have some tips and tricks,
so
to address that.
Something we should also talk about in flat design is that flat design, specifically to color, uses very limited color palettes.
Okay.
So you're looking at, you want to choose like 3 colors. Just pick 3 of them. And then maybe use shades and tints within those colors. But pick 3, and that's a good baseline to go from, because if you start throwing in a whole bunch of other colors, unless they have some narrative reason to be in there, then you should stick with that. 5 is sort of the outside limit, so 3 to 5. Now what I like to do, actually, let's go Window, and then we're going to go into Extensions, and we're going to get the Adobe Color Themes. This little window is a terrific tool for building out color palettes and for exploring the color palettes of others. So, for example, I want to do an animation and think, well, I want to do this for some San Francisco Giants fans. So we're here in San Francisco. You type in SF Giants,
Yeah. So
and it starts to search, and it'll return
nice.
colors that other people have sort of done they've done the work for you ahead, and there's no shame in standing on the shoulders of giants. But giants, it's a pun. So another thing though is that all of the idea of color theory and all of these intense color ideas are all represented here by this wonderful computer. So for example, we're looking at analogous color here, and if we start to pull out some of these things, we can start to pull and expand that analogous would be ratio between the colors. So if you think, okay, I know for sure this is the color I want to use. I know it in my heart. Then I also want a color that is fairly far away from it so I can have some variety. Like I want a red and a blue, so give me some of this. And then it'll populate a bunch of other colors in there, right? And these will sort of define your color palette. And something else unique to flat design is you want to use bright, very disparate colors from each other because they really pop out on unique things. Okay. So let's just let's save this over here for later. This is another fun feature you can do.
That's good.
Snap it over there.
There's another way also if you want to feed your After Effects with some colors is to use the Adobe Capture, the mobile app.
Yes.
So there is a color tab, and if you like, you will like an illustration in front of you, like a poster, you can use our mobile app and use Adobe Capture to pick the 5 main colors, and then it will show up in your Creative Cloud libraries directly in After Effects. So let me put the name in the chat, because when I say capture, no one's get it because of my accent.
Yeah, how does that, you spell that one? Oh boy. There's no CH in capture. It's crazy. So the big thing about that with capture, it allows you to be out in the world where you find inspiration, and that is that's you want to capture, like the name suggests, what you're feeling when you see it. Colors are another level of language that we use to communicate feelings and thoughts and ideas, and in flat design they're very essential because we use so few of them. So we have to really make hard choices, meaningful choices about what colors we're using.
And we have another question by Portillo Design, and he's asking why are you using After Effects for this kind of animation instead of Adobe Animate CC, which is the new name for Flash Pro, to make 2D animations?
Right.
Very good question.
I think one of the big reasons is that I've been using After Effects for 14 years, so this is part of my jam. But the other thing is that the thing I'm exporting out of this is primarily video, and usually what I'm doing is I'm creating animated pieces that will either be spliced into other video or the video stands on its own. I believe Animate has a lot of like web export stuff. It's got a lot of HTML5 stuff going on. So if that's where things are going to go, then definitely that's a good place to start your project, because you can then take things from there and throw it into After Effects. If, for example, you need to access some of the other effects that are in here. Because while flat design, like we're talking about today, is very effects light, that's not to say you won't use them. So if you start using things in the distort menu here to throw bulges, to throw bends, to throw blends, to throw warps and waves on things, you might need those. And they're very readily available here.
And also, as you said, you produce a video at the end. I would consider Adobe Animate in this case if you want to export a SVG animation or HTML5 animation, and like an animated icon that you will place on a website. But for animations, you have you have much more options. As you said, just the effects. And here you're just manipulating shapes, but you can also add some bitmap, add some video footage and merge everything, maybe add a video background, and then you need to use After Effects in this case.
Yeah, there is certainly, the Adobe suite of products has a lot of we would say, overlap between some products. So there's a lot of similarity between some functions in Premiere and some functions in After Effects. But there's also overlaps between Illustrator and After Effects, right? So there's a lot of things that kind of mesh into each other, and finding the right mix depends on the person, depends on the project. Yeah. There's no one right thing. That's why you gotta have the whole suite. It's important.
And we have Mike Chambers in the chat. Apparently he knows Animate very well. That's what we can say. And no, he works for Adobe. That's right. And he says that also if you want to build interactive animations, like if I click on the icon, then I play the animation, then you need to use Animate because it will run in a browser. So of course it makes sense, and you can script everything with JavaScript. To create interactive animations, you can also add some scripting in After Effects, but it's to control the animation when it should be rendered. And we will cover that with Vincent today. So if you check the schedule on adobelive.com, you will find the session about how to script in After Effects.
There's so many teasers.
And so many teasers. I mean, we try to cover all the fields, but I think it's a great introduction because flat design is so trendy. So it looks great. I really like your style.
Good, thank you. So I think we've covered enough of the basics. Let's actually make something.
Okay,
right?
so that's the goal. Like the challenge is to how to create these amazing animations.
Yeah, and we've sort of outlined some of the basic tools here of how we are. Oh yeah, and I forgot to talk about this pencil. We should talk about that.
Oh yeah.
So
what's happening with the pencil?
what's going on with this? Imagine, if you will, a pencil is rolling on a desk. How do we know that that pencil is in 3 dimensions and that it's not just a pencil that's being pushed across the desk horizontally, right?
Need to play with what? The highlights moving?
So I just put a line on it, and we know it's rolling because this little line goes across.
And also the easing.
Yeah. So all of these things tell a story, and the story I'm telling is that a pencil is rolling. And what I've done...
It's a great story.
I
think it will become a movie.
Okay.
The pencil is rolling.
I'm optioning it to Netflix right now. So.
Yeah.
But the speed at which the pencil is translating right to left is also matched. Oh, what do we got going on here? This little time remap. Ooh, what's that all about? So what I'm using time remapping to have this animation of a line that's going across. If we open up that comp, here's the pencil, and we go call up the keyframes of this thing. All that's happening is we are repeating this. Zoom. Burp. It's just waving by, right?
Created a loop.
Yeah. So
will you show how to create that?
Absolutely.
Because I have no idea.
So this makes use of a little expression.
Code.
That's right. Loop out cycle is what we'd like to do. We're saying, and there's a
loop out. Okay.
So loop out is saying, hey, After Effects, I made these keyframes. Could you keep doing them until the composition or the layer ends? Just keep doing them. So please loop until the out. And then the other thing it'll ask you is, there's so many ways I can do that. Which way do you want me to do it? So there's cycle, there is ping pong, there is continuous. So cycle is just saying, look, when you reach the end of this one, the next thing you're going to do
go back to the first frame.
Go back to this first one and do that.
So and ping pong does
would go, like
ping pong game.
Wee. In fact, we can just change that to
good idea.
Bam, just like this. So the big difference. That's going to look weird because I didn't also change the other one. But you can see that it starts to go... Oh, I bet that was the size. We want to do it.
Yeah, twice. So, okay.
So instead we go ping pong here. And now what we're going to see is it goes warp, 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 warp. Because we've also got these little lag keyframes in here to set up this space between it. But we will undo those. I should probably talk about why there's a space here also. That might be confusing. Because in the logical consistency of this pencil, which is a circle, it is a cylinder. If there's a line on one side of it, if I just make these go away, now there's twice as many lines. There must be a line on both sides of the pencil, which you could then, right? So depending on what you want to set up with yours, if you're feeling... If, say, a producer's like, look, I don't see enough line action, I don't know that pencil's rolling, simply deleting those keyframes and having this line on it twice as much, hitting tab to go back, check out the laptop, we know a little bit more about this rolling because it's happening twice as much. Now, in that loop is, we're going to look at the graph editor here, and we're going to see this is just an easy eased thing going on. The size is also just eased. Should have eased this one a little bit better. There we go. So even though these two graphs look very different, they're actually telling us the same kind of motion is going on. So we can see that the influence of these outside handles is very similar, coming in at 33%. The one in the middle here for the size, which is important because the size has to bounce back.
Yeah.
We've used this little keyframe right here, which is not linear, but it is, I can't remember the name of it, but it takes on like each side. Someone let me know in the comments what this type of keyframe is called. That is...
Yeah, so there is a 30 seconds delay.
Oh, okay.
So let's see.
The
And by the way, stay with us because at any
I'm
time
gonna zoom in on that.
during the day, we will give away Creative Cloud subscriptions to someone in the chat. So you will see
Ooh.
how it works. But we have a script running. It's called the Paul Training script running. And the script will pick someone in the chat who will win a 1-year Creative Cloud subscription, which means access to all the creative apps, Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere Pro, and...
Roving, thank you, Charlie.
Roving, oh, Charlie.
My man.
Oh. And someone asked, I think it was Augustinia, talking about your animations look very smooth.
Yes.
So thanks to easing, etc. And he says, he's asking, like, what is the role of the frame rate
Okay.
in this? Like, which frame rate do you use? Do you have like any recommendation?
So when we're talking, and this kind of goes back to when we were talking about when do you use Animate, when do you use this program. This is the same kind of consideration that a lot of what frame rate you use is going to depend on where it's going next. So if we have, for example, this project, all of these, I think, yeah, all of these are done in 29.97. Why are we using that particular frame rate? Well, because all this stuff is going to be put on the web. It's not going to be it's not going to be cut into film stock, which has its own frame rate issues. It's not going to be shown on TV. It's not going to be shown on TV specifically on Australia. So, like, because that would be a PAL versus an NTSC.
Same in France.
That's
It's PAL second.
Mm-hmm. So every place that you might put things is going to have a very different frame rate. Frame rate, if anyone went to see the Hobbit movies, will know that too high of a frame rate appears bizarre to us. Or if you watch soap operas like The Young and the Restless, which is a terrific show, but if you are watching these things, the frame rate there is very different as well.
Okay.
Now in animation, though, when you're using flat design animation, really the only consideration is where's it going next. Or if you say, if I did this, like I could do this in many of the standard things. We could do it in 25, we could do it in 23. But the big thing is, what is it going to be next to? If this is going to be shown in an environment where everything else is also 24 frames a second, do that. If it's going to be shown next to things that are 29, do that. But the big thing is sometimes things are lost. So when we say lost, we're saying, that's right, coming up next, once we finish this question. So the idea of frame rate is you need to work with something that is within the standards that you intend to export it at, and that is also going to give you the sort of look you want. Because some people talk about, oh, I want a choppier look to my animation, right? I want it to look a little bit more hand-drawn. Well, if you were going to do that, if you're still going to be playing it back at 30 frames a second, you still need to work at 30 frames a second. You need to work in the environment you're going to view it in.
Okay.
And then what you need to do is consider, let's go to the laptop example. How can I use the power of this wonderful program to simply make that happen? Well, we've got an effect called posterize time. So we can go, new adjustment layer, throw that over everything. Posterize time is going to say, just like we posterize an image,
Oh, nice.
we're going to start to clump frames together. So if I set this to 29.976 and so on, which it thinks is 30 for rounding, that's the same. That's no change, nothing's different.
Okay.
Let's go to 10. What does that mean? Doop, 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 doop.
Oh, nice.
See?
Okay.
So if you are going to be, like I said, if the end environment is 30 frames a second, work in that. And if you want it to be choppy, posterize the time, because these things are here to help us. But yeah, without further ado, I think it's time to get it going. Time to make a thing.
Yeah.
To make it for real.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so do it for real. We're doing it live. So the thing I think we're going to make, I think the clock is going to do that. I saw a lot of questions about repeaters.
Yeah, we
so
had a lot of questions about how to use the repeater, so I think the clock
Perfect.
is a good example.
Okay, so we'll start from scratch, and this is going to be class clock. This is the one that we're doing in class right now. So start off, we need to make some shapes. a lot of people approach shape layers differently. Some people, you go up here to the tools,
Yeah.
like grab a shape layer. Some people are just like, yeah, I'll draw it wherever I want, just like this. And then they use some combination of scripts to put it in the right place, or they grab the anchor point, like, I'll fix it like this. That's fine, right? That's good. I'm here to tell you today, stop doing that. you need to. But because what I do with I just double click on this. I hit UU, bring up the things. I unlink. So UU Uber frame. You hit that twice. It's going to bring up everything that has been altered about that shape or that layer. And in this case, the thing that has been altered about the layer is the size.
Okay.
And usually that's the thing you want to change because you don't want this. So you can just open it up, and then you can go, well, maybe this should be 500 by 500, just like that. Now, I've made a circle that's in the middle of this thing, and I don't want to belabor this point. I'm going to call this the good circle, because now I'm going to do it the other way. The way that I...
Can I ask you something?
Yep.
Don't use full red on this stream, because you get a glitch. Yeah, sorry for this. You just need to tweak it just a little bit.
Let's choose another color. This is
that's much better.
How are we doing? It's like,
yeah.
Is that slightly painful for people? Jeez Louise. All right, there we go. I'm going to pick a nice calming...
or you can go blue or any kind.
Yeah, pick a color.
You know what? Why don't the viewers pick a color? But before I get off track, we got this circle going on. If you do it the other way, if you grab the circle, you make a circle out here. You're holding down Shift to make sure it is a circle. Wonderful. Yeah. And then you are, you're grabbing this and you're putting it like this. You're grabbing that anchor point, you're putting it there, and then you're taking this and you're putting it back here. I'm going to hit Uber frame on this. Look how much stuff is actually different, right? And the big thing that's different is this right here. Transform of the ellipse is here. What does that mean, right? What do any of these words mean? Inside shape layers are a complicated hierarchy of things, right? There's the path itself, which is defined by a set of numbers telling us the size and a set of numbers telling us the position. It's defined by the fill. It's defined by then that group that is that circle is then defined further by saying, well, it's at this position, scale, skew, and all those things. Mm-hmm. Now, separately, we can even give it even more ideas, since all of these contents are also bounded within the layer, within this hierarchy of things about the anchor point, position, scale of the layer itself. So when you're making something that has a lot of confusing things that can be all over the place, why don't you just simplify it? Just don't. It's so easy. It's just right there. These are the only things I wanted to change about it. That's it. I don't have to worry about if I use a repeater and things are off the axis, then, if I can repeat and things start to slide in ways I don't expect, it's usually because of that. Okay. Because things appear to be the same, but they're not the same. And it is important to know what's going on. Fine control is important.
So John is asking, so what was the right way? So if you want to summarize it, you double-click on the shape.
Yeah, if I were to summarize, I would say just double-click on the shape.
Press UU.
Hit UU. Unlink these sizes if you want to make a circle, and then type in the size of your circle.
And that's it.
So, and certainly there are scripts and stuff that can do that kind of thing, but I highly recommend, if you're kind of new to this and maybe you're learning and sometimes things don't work the way you expect, go back to basics, keep it simple. So that's also good, just life advice. So this is going to be, let's say that this is going to be the rim around the clock. Whenever you're making some kind of an object, you're making some kind of icon, you want to break it into parts in your head. You want to think, all right, not just what are the visual parts, but what are the moving parts of it. So if someone brings a logo to you or something, it might have a bunch of layers, but they might not be layers in the way that you would animate those layers, because there's information that's missing or there's too much information. And when I say too much information, it could be things like, you don't need to fill in all these gaps. You just need the thing that's on the surface. So for us, I've decided we're going to make the rim of the clock, because that's one of the decisions I get to make as a designer, that everyone has to make those. So to make that, it's going to be a circle minus another circle equals a torus, I guess that would be a donut. So I'm going to Command D. I'm going to duplicate this ellipse path. I can link those back together because we're going to do circles, and we're going to make this a little bit smaller. Let's zoom in so we can get get really enjoying this. Yeah. So we've got this thing, we've got these paths, we've got 2 paths in there, ellipse path 1 and ellipse path 2, and this thing needs to be like maybe this big, maybe, doesn't need to be exact, but we've got 2 paths in there, and like we talked about in the hierarchy of the layer, this path and this path both have a stroke, both have a fill, right? We actually don't need strokes, we're going to get rid of that, but we can then go add merge path, and a merge path is doing a Boolean operation. It's saying, all right, let's look at this path, which we know, let's make it easy for ourselves, and rename that outside. If you want to rename stuff, select a thing, hit return, wonderful. If you want to do rename inside, because when they're just 2 circles, that's needlessly confusing. We're trying to teach people today. So we've got outside, inside, and now we're merging them.
Okay.
In this way, we're adding them. Let's not add them, let's subtract them. Boop, just like this. So it's saying u minus u equals this. You could say, what is the intersection of the 2 of them? So where does this intersect this equals this? So starting from the top, working your way down. That's important to keep that idea of starting at the top, falling down through this, this, and then this. Because we're going to do some crazy stuff with this real soon. So we're subtracting, we've created the outside of the clock, and at this point we should probably animate this on in some way. We're here to animate stuff, we got to do it. So I'm going to keyframe the size of the outside and keyframe the size of the inside. We know it's resting state, what we could call the end state of this. So you're just going to, let's do a 1 second animation, so we know at the end of 1 second this is what we want.
Okay.
But at the start, what we want is nothing for the outside size, probably nothing for the inside size as well. So we're going to take these, and we are going to ease them. Let's ease both of them. And we're going to go to the graph editor. Now, easing has hit F9 for those of you out there. 30-second delay, it's going to come at us. So what we're looking at here is the graph editor. And the graph editor is where, if you are looking for smooth motion on your animation, then you are probably going to want to get really comfortable with this graph editor. Because the keyframes tell us when and what. This tells us how. So when we want to describe how do I get from one position to another, well, this is showing us that it'll start a little bit slow, kind of same in the middle, and then bounce it off at the end. We're looking at a value graph. This is the value of that size. We could look at a speed graph that looks like this. No speed, fast speed, no speed again. Let's look at the value graph, and I'm just going to pull this influence handle forward like this, increasing the amount of influence that has, and I'm going to bring this up above.
Ooh.
Check. Oh boy, look at this. So what does that look like? It goes wow. So it expands
like
large and comes back down. That's what those in classical animation know as the stretch and bounce.
Stretch and bounce.
You gotta have that stretch. That's what they know in the dance hall is stretch and bounce. Also, I guess.
And there's a question from. Sorry if I mispronounce. Like cat something, cat bill. I don't know. Can you subtract a text from the shape layer this way?
Not in this way. It needs to be a shape, right?
So you type your text and you convert it into a shape.
That's
I guess.
right. If we wanted to use text, we could type out some text. Just like this. So we've got some text, and then we can create shapes from that text, and then we can copy and paste those into the layer.
It's the same.
But if you wanted to use text on a text layer, then you will want to probably use mats. So you want to set up that text as a mat layer. But as for how do we get into the graph editor, we got this little button right here, graph editor. I also recommend setting up a keyboard shortcut to jump into that very quickly. So we're still dealing with this outside thing. The outside is coming up like we'd like. The inside is kind of meh because of all the very interesting things going on with the outside. Now the inside looks kind of blah.
And someone is asking how to get the graph. Like if you can just show where to display the graph, so it's at the bottom of the.
Yeah, and I could always zoom in on that portion of the screen. Just give me some.
So we got the.
I can kind of zoop.
Yeah, we got the graph editor button
right there. Let's do this. Zip.
Boom.
There we go.
Okay.
Beautiful. Now I'm going to have to ask you to go further towards the bottom of the screen, though.
Let's reset it.
Reset.
As we also look at this little menu icon, choose graph type and options. A lot of times, and I get this question a lot, is my graph editor doesn't look like your graph editor. Well, that's true because they're all unique snowflakes, but the real reason is that you're editing a value graph or a speed graph. By default, After Effects tries to choose the one that's best for you. You could also have it do that all the time.
Okay.
But most people are more familiar with editing speed. People don't usually get into editing value. Editing value is a little bit more advanced, but that is, it's important to also understand how that graph works and what that means for the project. So we're going to do a different type of curve for the inside. We're going to stretch the bottom like this so that it kind of lags behind and then whoop, comes up like that. Let's make a little bit of a harder thing. Boom.
Nice.
So we've set 2 keyframes. And we've got so much interesting stuff going on. This is already phenomenally better than the example video. Since this is the rim of the clock, we're gonna use like a light gray on this, and oops, we want to make sure we're actually changing the fill of this. Kind of up like this. We could give it a little bit of color if we want, maybe like a little green in there, and that's perfectly fine. Because we know that in the logical consistency of our image, this needs to be closer to the top. It should be a lighter color because there's going to be light shining on it. And then we can just call this, I don't know, clock face? Well, this isn't really the face, but it's called the clock edge. We also require maybe a new solid to serve as the background. You could use a shape layer for the background as well, but it's not totally necessary. Let's stick with working in some clinical greens, but something darker. Like this. So
nice.
It's a circle, it's not a clock yet.
So you have some questions by Andreas about can you do like the same with position, I guess, like break?
Yes.
So you can. And
when do you break the dimensions of position? So in this instance, we're using size, and size and position are very similar in a couple of ways. One, these are a property that is an array. It's an array of type 2, meaning it has 2 parts. The X part and the Y part, the 500, 500.
Yeah. So X scale,
That's
horizontal scale, vertical scale for the size, and for position, X and Y positions. Yeah.
That's right. Position also has the hidden third property of depth, right? You can't see it right now because this isn't a 3D layer, but it is there. Size doesn't have that. But another thing that's interesting is that some properties have velocity, some properties do not. When you want to break them apart is when something unique and different and important to both of them, both dimensions, is happening. So I encounter this a lot more when I'm working in actual 3D layers, when we are going to have things going, I want it to move towards the camera with a certain type of character, and I want it to move from left to right with a certain type of character. So that's when you want to split them up, when you believe that what you're doing is better served to have these things on separate channels, because once you break them apart, it's hard to get them back together. So it's a bummer, but it's true. But you can always just reset them and put them back. But in this case, I know it's going to be a circle. It's going to be a circle forever. I'm keeping them linked together. So and if I split them apart, that's 2 lines. That's twice as many lines. Listen. We talked about this before. 2 isn't bigger than 1, but it isn't that much bigger, but it's twice as big. I can't stress how much bigger that is. It's like 100% bigger. So anyway, we got this clock edge. I think we're done dealing with that. But one thing I will say is we're going to come back and reference these, because in the example, if I hit look at all the keyframes on here, there are a lot of things happening in this clock, and there's not a lot of keyframes in here. But why? Why these keyframes? Well, because there are also a bunch of expressions. Ooh, yes, that's the secret sauce. So another thing a clock needs, all clocks need not hands, they need shadows. That's what they need. So, but let's first make the face of the clock, the back of it, so it's different from the wall. Let's duplicate this, and we're call this the clock face. And since it's the face of the clock, let's make it lavender, I guess. And if I hit UU, I look at all the stuff in here. The only thing I need to change is to say, well, I don't need the merge path of the inside. We'll get rid of those, and then we'll just change this from being of this color to, I don't know, we'll make it like this color. Like that. It's getting a little bit darker. Maybe maybe make it a different color, make it a yellowy color. That's fine. This is like a hospital clock, I guess. It's meant to depress you. So now you can see by just deleting some stuff, we've got this going on. Kind of looks like an egg, maybe. But we have now increased the number of keyframes that are going on needlessly. Needlessly. When will if I'm in my mind, I know I will never have this face be different than the outside edge, then let's just remove those keyframes. Let's hold down Alt, get this going on. So we've hold down Alt, we click on the stopwatch, it gives us this line to enter an expression. You are now always the same as you. So this size will always be the same as this size.
So it's, what's the name? Not nested, but...
we would say parented, probably. But parenting is a separate and unique thing. I don't want people to get it twisted, because when you parent layers to each other, that's a special thing. Sometimes people use the term slaved, because one thing is to the other, and it's kind of a more coding thing. I'm going to say linked. Let's say linked, because it's a non-judgmental word that we can use. And
so we have Rufus Studio. Interesting name. Say all these expressions. I find expressions really intimidating. So
and
what is your take on expressions?
And that's a very common thing, because they are intimidating. It's like learning. It's like learning a different language. You know, like if I had to start learning, I don't know, if I had to learn Japanese to do my job, it'd be very difficult for me. But the best way to do it is the same way you get good at language. You got to get conversational with it. You have to start moving things around. You have to start experimenting with it. You really only, you only learn a language by getting immersed in it, and you can take baby steps. We just used the pick whip in here. We didn't type, no typey type, I don't have to know any of the words. I just grab the line, pick whip you to this, done. Now, as for what this means, this is telling us within this comp, the one we're in, please look at the layer called clock edge dot, meaning within that layer, please look at content. Which content? This specific one, ellipse 1. Within that, please look at content outside. Oh boy, so full of burps today. And then within that, please look at the size. So each one of these periods here, these little dots, these decimals, these full stops are saying, let's look one layer deeper. So that hopefully that demystifies what this line actually means. Because if you just pick whip your way through the world, you're like, well, now it's broken. I don't know why it's broken. What happened? What happened to this? Why is it? Anyway. So when we set up these relationships, let's say someone comes in, you can play the role of producer today and just yell out what you want changed about this. You could come in and say, hey, this clock is not big enough. Please make that bigger. Well, I've made one change, and everything's still fine, right?
Still works.
That's right. Everything's fine. Everything's good. And we're going to do that throughout this project. So to make sure things work, things are good. So it's got an edge. It's got a face. It needs a shadow. Because right now, this could be anything. We don't have enough information about this to say what's going on. And to make the shadow, we're going to make it out of parts that already exist. I'm going to make it out of the clock edge. So let's duplicate that. Actually, you know what? This one's already set up to be linked to the things we want. Let's just duplicate that. So this is going to be the outside shadow. And since it's a shadow, I want to delineate that for myself. Let's make it a dark green thing, because you don't have like a... We could set up a bunch of different colors, but we're not going to do that. So we've got this outside thing. Let's duplicate that. So now we have two of them in that. So if we look at all the contents of this thing, we've got, this is called the ellipse 1 group. That's no longer relevant. It's probably the shadow group, which is a shady organization that makes shadows all over the place. And we've got two outside ellipses here that are both the same. They're both the same in that, they both have the same size relationship to each other. And we know that this has a fill, but we know this fill needs to be just plain black fill. So once this thing is grown, now we want that shadow to expand away from this thing. So why don't we use the position here of that circle to make that happen. Now, I could do a lot of things. I'm choosing to do it this way, and it'll make more sense why in a minute. That we've got this position, we're setting a keyframe. going ahead in time, I just hold down Shift and hit the page down to move ahead 10 frames. That really helps me with pacing. So if I can make a recommendation for how do I know when things should happen, if you want to set up ratios of time, just holding Shift and hitting that can give you a good rough idea and then pinch it in later. But what's going to happen is this is going to move away. It's going to move far, far away, maybe this far away. And again, we need to set up some kind of, linear is not interesting. That's not good. So let's make these things, let's ease them. And now we're going to look at the old speed graph here, and we're just going to make it go like this. That we really want this thing to accelerate and then decelerate. And I actually prefer things to start at their maximum acceleration. This is just a little tip about animating. When something is new on the screen, you should bring it in at its maximum acceleration and then have it coast to its final destination. It doesn't need to be this extreme. It could be like this, as long as there's just a little bit of a bend in there. Boom, just like that. That it kind of shoots out, right? If it kind of eases out, then our eyes are catching on to that thing. We're seeing it. Then as soon as we see something moving, our human brains try to create expectations and patterns. So maybe we'll expect it to go slower, and then it suddenly lurches forward. Oh, now I'm uncomfortable about this motion. I don't like it. I should throw a rock at it because I'm a cave person. So that's coming out. That's not a shadow, though. That's a circle. That's not quite the whole story, right? So what we should do is we should put a rectangle that bridges the gap between these two things. So let's add a rectangle. And this rectangle, it's got its own set of problems, that it needs to be of a certain size. I'm going to unlink that size, and I'm going to set it to be, we know how wide it's got to be. It's got to be 500 wide. That's getting my wires over the number pad. So it's got to be 500 wide, and at the beginning, it needs to be 500 by 0, and then at the end it should be 500 by the delta change in this position. Let's say it's 600, so we can work with round numbers and I'm not typing things. So it's going to need to be 600 like this. Its position is going to need to change as well. So make sure we're keyframing the size and position here, and it needs to be 0, 300. We know that's the case because that's the halfway point between the two. I'm just kind of setting up what's going to be the big reveal here. At the beginning, setting this to 0, and this also 0. And its movement, this graph for it, this speed graph, apparently that's this. If I play this through, that's not right, because this speed graph doesn't look like this speed graph, right? So I should, I'd need to select these things, and then I grab those, and then I do this, and then I'm pushing this way and grabbing.
You mean do it manually? But there's always a risk, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. So, we're doing it manually. It looks okay. But, oh goodness, this is a program. It is a computer. We can
please. Make connections, please.
We got to make those connections.
And Michel is asking on this topic, when do you use a speed graph versus a value?
So, that is a very subjective thing. Generally, I use a speed graph when I know that I'm going between one point and the other point, and I don't want to deviate from beyond those expected values. So when we did the value graph here at the beginning, I used the value graph because I knew I wanted the value to be altered beyond the scope of these two keyframes, meaning that it's
to have these bounds.
Yeah, the resting point here is at 500. But I wanted to put a bulge in the graph that it goes above 500.
Okay.
You can't do that with a speed graph because you're only altering speed.
Oh, I see.
So when you want things to change in value, that's generally why you're doing it. Another reason to do it is because some projects you might have, you might find, oh boy, this thing as it moves is going beyond a certain point or it's expanding beyond a certain point. Then you want to go into the value graph and kind of tweak it down, because on the value graph you can see the value in the graph. It's beautiful. But back to the point about linkages and linking things. The size of this rectangle is known to us to be 500 because that is the size of the shadow, right? So let's take those keyframes away. Let's hold Alt. Let's go into here, and I'm going to set up some variables. We're now entering level 2 of expressions. We've gone beyond pick whips. We're into variables. Hold on to your hats. So I'm going to say x equals I'm going to say x is going to be equal to the size of the first part of this. So you can say link me to the size, but you can say link me to only this part of the size, just like that.
Oh.
And it creates this little setup. So
now you see it's an array. Like index 0 is the
That's
first
right.
item of the array. Okay.
That's right. So only tell me about the first part of the array.
It's good that it generates some code. Just using
This is also a great way to learn, right?
Yeah.
Is that pick whipping to these things will teach you, just in the general way of reading them, how these things go. So now you can go y equals, but what is y supposed to equal? Well, y is supposed to equal the difference between the two circles, right? So maybe the y should equal the position here, right? Maybe that makes sense. Now it's going to give me an error, and the error is because I haven't told it what the output is going to be. And the output in square brackets should be x comma y. And the purpose of this x comma y thing is to say that x go here, y go here, and then it slots those in. So it's going through the motions right now, which is great. And let me just have a look at the old position here. Now the position is also a little bit out of sync. So we're going to need to delete those keyframes. And its position is known to us as well. That its position, just hold Alt, click on the thing, bring it up. We're going to set a little x and y for this as well. So x is going to be equal to, so x right now is equal to 0. That's a good spot for it to be. And why? It's still very early in the morning. When you set up variables with nothing in it, it should look like this. So you've got x equals. If you could, if you wouldn't mind, taking us down there, take us to the zone.
The zone.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the zone. So we got the x, we've got the y. So as this thing goes along, it's going to give us an error if we move out of it. We know that the y needs to be at 300, and 300 is half of 600. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick whip from here to that specific part, divided
by 2. Yeah,
that's great. And
that's fine.
The other
what
thing,
about the x?
And the x is always going to be 0 because we don't want it to move side to side. Because you can just put a static value in there, and that'll be its value for all time. I could go and I could try to mess with this as much as I want. Nothing would change.
Oh, okay. So it's the kind of hierarchy or priority.
Yeah.
Like the expression always wins.
That's right. The expression, well, this is interesting to say because the expression can also be, some expressions can be applied to keyframes. For example, the smooth expression, right? What's happening is the expression always, so it overrides, but it happens second. The keyframes happen first, and then the expression happens.
I see.
But because these are very definite, they aren't modifiers, then, I'm saying your output is this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying your output could be your value plus this. I'm saying it is this way because I said so and I'm older than you. And that's how it works,
Yeah, we're all older than After Effects.
Yeah. But now we've simplified it. We only got 2 keyframes. We've got a bunch of things going on. This is happening. So things are working out. Now I can go through, and if the producer, you, comes back and says, I don't like that motion's not doing it for me, ease that motion, then we can do that. We can do that.
Nice.
We do that one click, we're done. So it takes a little bit of time today. It'll save you a headache later.
Oh my god, yeah.
And I mean, for those who do this,
So you mean that you get some feedback from customers sometimes? Sometimes I'm not satisfied.
listen,
But
everybody's got a lot of ideas.
we're all creatives.
Yeah.
All creative people.
But
including
again,
customers.
just like the shape layer has hierarchies, so does production have hierarchies. So, and it's important that it's also, creative endeavors are collaborative. Everybody's got ideas. Someone might have other ideas you didn't think of. So to have this flexibility, you're building up a system of something that can work for you. Something else about this shadow that we're going to want to do is we're just going to hit the old R, bring up the rotation, and maybe move it 45 degrees or maybe negative 45 degrees. Because we find long shadows are almost always 45 degrees in one way. That's a fun convention. It's always very linear. It's always on the cardinal directions.
Yeah.
We don't see a lot of deviation from that, except in the instances when people are expressly using, like, I have a hexagonal logo. Hexagonal hexagonal logo. Let's do it on the 60s, on the 30s, on the 20s.
Oh,
right?
yeah, makes sense.
Because the cleanness of the lines, you want that lining up of things. So that's another pro tip. So this is the drop shadow, and then we can just take this and go like this if we want. But if you're working with an incredibly limited color palette, you might even not mess with the opacity of shadows. It might have its own special color. So think of it, look at how many colors we've already used. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
We're at 4. We got one more. Don't waste it. Don't waste that last color. And the last color will be wasted when we do the inside edge.
So David is asking if you will be sharing this file.
We can,
Yeah?
for sure.
You don't mind?
Well, if you guys can post it somewhere, if you guys are good with that, however you guys want to do it,
Yeah,
I'll just
how can we do it? Oh, you know what? We will put it in the description of the video.
yeah, there'll be a
Of the
link.
replay, so you can share it with me, and
Yeah,
I will put it in the description of the video.
absolutely.
Yeah, good idea.
And everything from day 1, day 2, day 3, it's all going to be on there.
Okay.
So if
Yeah,
you're-
we'll do it. And by the way, if you want to also create an animation and share it with us and Evan, you can do that. So you just create your animation, render a movie, and you can share it on Twitter. Just add the hashtag, and that's here, the hashtag Adobe Live. Okay, so we can catch it, and we will showcase on the stream tomorrow or your based animations. And some of you also can win a 1-year Creative Cloud subscription sharing this animation. So I think it's a good opportunity. So yeah, let's come back.
Okay, so back to the point of things. We've made one shadow. That's not very spectacular, but we did it. We need the inside shadow, right? So if this is a clock, and if this is higher than this, if the white is higher than the yolk of this egg, then we need to show that somehow. And the way we're going to show that is with an inside shadow. We're not going to use a bevel, because that's not flat design. That's not what we're into.
Yeah, it's Photoshop.
That's right. That's a Photoshop thing. If you want to do that,
From the 90s. Stop it.
you'd be kicked out. You're out of the clubhouse.
With a glow effect and the
Yeah.
yellow color. It's Photoshop.
Yeah, we're not feeling it. So we're just going to duplicate that outside shadow and call this inside shadow. It's a crazy name, I know. But we've got this outside shadow. The inside shadow is just going to be something removed from this.
Okay.
We've talked about that Boolean operation of merging stuff together, and then we're going to take stuff away. And the hierarchy of stuff. So what we're going to do is, let's look at this shadow. Let's add a group into here. It's just an empty group. There's nothing in it until I pile all of these things into that group. It's going to give me a crazy warning, and that is because when you move things into a new group, the expression is broken.
Oh.
And it is broken because this line is no longer true. It's no longer true that you can find it in this place because there's a group in the way. Like, we have to go content. It is content. Here we go. So it goes here, 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 and then we have arrived. So in this one, we're not looking at content.shadow. We would then have to go dot
Group
group.
one.
Yeah. So if things break, that's why, and you just need to go in here and fix that up by going like this, just like that. So we're just adding content group 1 dot content outside. So just that little addition should do it up, and this one here is going to have the same problem. So so we can just actually copy and paste from here. This might be easier than finding
And we have a Neil Perez asking if you can use these animations in AdWords banner ad. So I'm not sure what kind of format they expect.
So
do they expect like GIF animations? Or?
Now let's see. You can do a lot of things in the AdWords platform.
Yeah. Have you already been asked? Because I mean,
I have.
you teach After Effects on YouTube, and by the way, the link to his channel is in the description of the video. Okay, make sure to subscribe to his channel too. But also, you work like for customers.
Yeah. So just to answer, what is my day job? It's this. You're looking at it. This is what I do all day, every day. Motion graphics, front and back. Now, sometimes people come in and they want things to be put into a banner. AdWords can take, I think they can take Flash files, and they can also take GIFs. The most common way you're going to want to do it is as a GIF or a GIF. Please write in and tell me which is the correct pronunciation. But
we had so many debates about it. Like the creator of the format said it should be named GIF.
Okay.
That's what he said. But
right. But I mean, if the
you will
creators
always
of
find-
things
yeah.
got to decide how history remembers their
Exactly.
name, we would have a whole other set of problems. Anyway, it's to have GIF or GIF exporting. Usually, what I recommend people do at this time, because maybe this feature's coming out. I don't know if we can speculate, but you take your thing, export it as an MP4, open that MP4 up in Photoshop, export from Photoshop as
save
GIF.
for the web.
Yeah, that's right. Save it for the
Save
web.
for the web.
Save for
Select GIF, and you get it.
You know what?
Very cool workflow.
It says obsolete or something on Save for Web now. It says that's
Legacy.
Legacy, right?
Legacy,
That's
but
the nice.
but we still use it.
That's the kind word. Yeah. But it's still valuable, so that's why you got to have it in there, and that's usually how I do it. And in that exporting,
It's Jeff.
it's pronounced Jeff.
Animated Jeff.
Ah, good old animated Jeff. You know what? On day 3, we'll make an animated Jeff, and it'll be great. So we've fixed our broken shadow. We've done that. We now require a second one, basically, or we need to punch a hole in that one because we don't need the whole thing, right? And in fact, we don't really need.
So it will be inside the clock.
That's right. So, I mean, you can probably guess where this is going.
I have no idea.
Oh, that's fine.
That's fine.
That's good. Is that the idea is that since we've got this group, the other things that we don't actually need about the group are going to be stuff like what's down here in this area. We do need what's right in here.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, we've got it set, we've got the layer exactly where we want it to be. We just need a circle in here to just cut a hole in this. So all of this group, we first need to say, merge these paths together, stick all of these paths onto each other, which is very important. They need to add onto each other. Whenever you add a merge paths into a group, it's going to want to bring its own stroke and its own fill. Get rid of those. I'm not totally sure why that always happens. It's sort of like it's really proud to show you what it's doing, so that's why it's doing it. But we've got outsides, we've got insides. So let's grab. We're going to basically make a new. I'm going to make a new ellipse, and that ellipse is outside this group. And if we say add a merge paths to this, so I don't know these fun merging paths, we can say don't add but subtract. And if you look really closely, this path is now subtracted from that whole group. So this path, no matter where it is going to be subtracted from the group, which is important to sort of understand. This is kind of a very basic file, but the power of being able to say group all of these things together and then take another group and subtract them from that, it could be a very complex grouping that you're doing. This is a very basic group, but it could be incredibly complex. And you could then say, all right, very complex group, subtract this complex group from you as well. And that's going to create a perfect vectorized differentiation between the two of them. It's very useful for us to be able to do that, only because if you're using mats, for example, if you're using like a bitmap mat, you are then bounded by the scaling and stretching of bitmaps, right? You could be using a mask. Masks are another can of worms. We could jump into that because it's different the way masks are ordered. When you apply effect to something, it hits things at different times. So maybe you don't want to do that. This is a great way to add and subtract from your vector shape layers within that one shape layer. So without further ado, this here we need to be matched to what we know is the inside edge. So this is, again, inside. So its size should be directly linked to that. Parp, goes like that. And then it should be offset like this by just changing the position. And we're looking good. So there are some things that we don't actually need from that original group. We don't actually need the rectangle. I think we do need.
Yeah, because maybe not.
No, we do need it right there.
Oh, yeah.
Right. we don't need
The other.
we don't need that other circle,
Yeah.
so we can make it go away, and then things are going to break. But that rectangle is actually the wrong size and shape for what we require. What we actually need is a rectangle that is from this bounds to this bounds. Like it's in kind of the wrong spot for us. So its size needs to be dependent on the smaller of the two. So instead of looking at the outside, we should be looking at the inside, right? If we look into, we're actually, the two projects are now becoming almost the same project. So we're going to show you what the good one looks like before we get everything messed up. If we look at the inner shadow on this thing, and it's telling us, if you haven't used the newer versions of After Effects, this banner sticks around to tell you somewhere in your project there's an error.
Somewhere.
You should go find it.
Good luck.
Well, I mean, it'll help you find it. You just hit next and it'll go right to it. So, anyway, so here on what we could call the good clock, because it has pleasing colors and it's nice to stare at. If we look at only, click the only here. We look at only this, and let's bring its opacity up.
Oh.
So, what is this shape that we are making? Well, this one is defined by, I shouldn't have used, let's use fuchsia so we can actually see what's going on. So this thing is actually defined by a ring around it, and then this being taken away from it as it moves. And, we ended up putting keyframes on that as well, just because we wanted it to have independent control for its timing, depending on everything else. So, I do confuse myself at times when I remake projects. It's always an adventure. But so to make the inner shadow, we can just subtract one thing from the other thing. Now we're going to get into that thing that people have a lot of questions about, the repeater, right?
Oh yeah.
We talked about the repeater. This uses the repeater because while these things out here are mostly static, the clock face isn't going to change. The sizes aren't going to change, except that they're going to change relative to each other, and we can put linkages in there. But one thing that is changing a lot are these hands, these clock face hands in here. So what's going on with these is they're animating on, they don't really animate on, but they are constantly in motion. So if we want to do something about that, then we are going to want to, let's stop looking at that. We are going to want to come in here and we're going to want to put down, first put the hands down. So we're going to do that by going,
Double click.
like we've done.
UU.
Unlink. Then boom, we got it, just like that, super fast. Let's give this a darker color so that it stands out. If I was building a clock, that's probably what I would do so I can actually read it. It is going to be defined by one dial in the middle. It is going to be defined also by a rectangle of some size and description. And that rectangle, we're going to want to rotate that rectangle around an axis, I assume. And within the rectangle path, it doesn't have that option, right?
What do you mean? The rotation?
That's right. So, but the rotation can be found in a group. So if this is in a group, we can rotate it. So let's do that.
But you can group like one element?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a party for one. It's dancing by itself. There's no shame in that. No tea, no shade, no lemonade. So we're probably going to want to make this slightly smaller than the dial, maybe, and maybe longer. All these numbers are very subjective, and then we're going to position it just like this. We're using this position. So this position is now relative to this group, meaning that if I take this group and I rotate it, it is rotating around that central axis. These are remember, these are the problems we talked about. Why don't I just make the shape wherever I want and drag it around? That's why. Because if I took this and if I didn't alter its position, it would be rotating like that. If I had it all the way out here, it would be rotating like that. If its anchor point was way over here, it would be rotating in a bizarre and unexpected and unpleasant way. So, because some things we don't expect are pleasant. But when you're trying to find control one of these things, it's not pleasant. It's remarkably unpleasant. So this group, we can just call this group big hand, I guess, because it's going to be bigger than the other hand. Or maybe that's the minute hand. I'm going to level with you. that don't know how to read regular clocks. It's a challenge. It hasn't held me back, and it shouldn't hold back anyone else. So,
here.
Now we've got two hands.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And again, you can see the relationship between this value and this value. So if you wanted to use math to figure those things out, you could. But we've got a big hand. We've got...
Brad is saying that the double-click UU trick already changed his life.
Good.
See?
We're going places already.
Hey, Vincent is here. In the chat, I mean. Hopefully he will be with us in the studio in...
Are you in the building?
In 3 hours. Yeah, are you? Vincent is in the building.
If you need someone to let us know in the chat if you need to be let in the building.
Just tell us you're in San Francisco.
Yeah.
That would be a first step.
I'm at the airport. Come pick me up. So we've got the hour hand. We've got the minute hand. We can animate these things moving around if we want. So we could have rotation, do things.
So when you have like, because it's a standard rotation, and it never stops. And you were showing like you could create loops. So in this case, like, can you create a loop? Because I don't want to create like keyframes to just say, turn around. Yeah?
Well, like me, I'm very lazy, so that's important. It's doing less work is better, especially in a labor-intensive career, right? So, well, it's not like hard labor. It does take a lot of time and eye strain. So, if you want two things to animate in relation to each other, we do know a thing about how hour hands and minute hands relate to each other in the world. That is that one moves at 1/60th the speed of the other. So we could say...
Good point.
Yeah, that is true about these things. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to go put a keyframe, or we're going to put an expression rather, on the rotation of the minute hand. We're going to put on the rotation of the hour hand. You got to pick one to be the driver. Which one's going to be in the driver's seat? So we'd say, because this isn't going to be a very long animation, let's let the minute hand be in the driver's seat and have the hour hand sort of march to its beat, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say time times 100. Now time is a property. That's just a fun fact about time. What I'm saying here is, hey, After Effects, what time is it? Just tell me. Just tell me what time it is compared to the project. So right now we are at 2 seconds and 7 frames. So I'm going to expect time is going to be 2 times. For those of you who like math, this symbol means multiply. That's the asterisk right there. So then we hit return, and I was correct that 2 point something something, because it's expressed in seconds, times 100 yields me this response, which you said you don't want to put any keyframes. Never put a keyframe again. It's just constantly going.
Just turn around.
Yep, all the time.
And who's asking? Kimmy Yu asking, is there a coding language recommended to help learn expressions? What I see so far, and I discover expressions with Evan, it looks like JavaScript.
Yep.
And classic scripting language. So yeah, and Rectoverso design is already answering. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and it's an object-based language, just like Java.
Yeah.
And it is a derivative of Java. So
and object-driven with a hierarchy. So it's like when you with HTML when you parse the DOM elements. Here I recognize the same. When you were saying like it's group one and then shadow. And
yeah. But if you have a lot of questions about expressions, someone's going to come on later today to talk about that.
Yeah, Vincent. If he's in San Francisco.
That's right.
We still don't know.
If not, he will be here in the chat to answer all your questions.
He's already in the chat.
Yeah. So we know there's a relationship between these two, so we can just take this pick whip. We can say U rotation, look at this rotation, and then I think it's, oh boy, this is where my math falls apart. It's either divided by 60 or times 60. So
logical.
Yeah, so
it's not moving very fast, but
but every time it goes around, but it's not 60.
No, it's not 60.
It's 360 divided by 60. Someone else can do this math, or I can just
6. One in chat.
Yeah,
try 6.
Yeah, it's probably that. Could be more. I don't know. This looks.
No, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is to remember that. There's 12 things around the clock face. We're actually going to be dividing 360 by 12. I mean, all of the numbers that we want can be found in the original project file. This is why I don't do things twice, man. It's really really embarrassing sometimes. It was 12. It was dividing it by 12.
It's 12.
Oh, boy.
That's
So,
it.
but we've got a thing and the thing is moving. That's really what we want to get to. And we've got a thing and the thing is moving, and it's all in one layer. And we've got a thing and the thing is moving, it's all in one layer, and now it's going to be all thrown into one group, right? So
Okay.
add that group. Or, if we don't need to use a group, maybe we can just take this, duplicate it.
Okay.
So we've got the dial, right?
So what do you want to create a group?
So
You want to add an effect or something?
when we do the repeater, we want to make sure that
Oh, for the
everything,
repeater,
everything
for the
is
shadow.
glommed together correctly, right?
I see.
So we've got the dial. We're going to put that on top. This one's going to be
Shadow.
shadow dial.
All caps.
Yeah, all caps, all
Shadow
the time.
dial.
That's right. That's the name of my screenplay that goes unpublished. It's the Shadow Dial. It's about time travelers who fall in love with a robot. So you can check that out later. So we've got all the components of that dial are still here in this other thing. But what we need to do is repeat this dial. So what we can do is we can just say add a repeater into here. And as you can see, it's now creating dials out into the universe. The repeater is essentially saying everything above me, I'm going to make more of that. Meaning anything we repeat isn't
Above. You mean in the
hierarchy. Yeah,
Below.
up.
Okay.
So let's say I put it here. If I put it below the hour hand,
Just one hand.
notice only the hour hand. If I put it
Oh.
the hour hand and minute hand, just the hour hand, minute hand.
Interesting.
If I put it below the ellipse path, we got them all. We've caught them all. We are the very best, the best that ever was. So we can make 10 copies, we can make 100 copies, make a million copies. We can make all the copies. Once we have all of the copies, you see they're kind of pushed out into the universe. We need to curtail this. So we can go -1 and 1, and it creates...
And Vincent is still in Austin.
Oh boy,
Oh boy.
that's not the place to be right now. So if we adjust the position here to be 1 and 1, meaning each new copy is 1 pixel below and 1 pixel to the side of the one before it, then simply making many, many more of these pushes that shadow on into, the future in this way. And if you look at the edge of it, this is what's kind of important about the difference between these two methods. The edge here is a little bit harsher, we'll say, just because what's happening is we're making many, many of these things in a ladder all the way down. So if you have a very complex shape, you could have this going on. And now we just have to go take the
Nice.
opacity of this, put it down like so. I mean, we can barely see all our excellent work. We need to have that be a little bit higher. So that...
Be proud
Yeah, be proud
of
of
your
work.
shadow dial.
Shadow dial. So we could even push this on so that the dial, here we go, copies, that it pushes even beyond the edge of this.
Ooh.
Because we have just a crazy light source going on. It's a wild
So
scene.
intense.
Yeah, I mean it's an impossible light source that just it's pushing out into there. But here's something fun that I like to do. I like to combine my vectors with other vectors. I want to combine all of this work with shape layers with a mask. Why not? Why not? We can do that. We have the power. We can. When you click on the circle here, by default it's going to want to grab, kind of gloms onto what layer you have and chooses, oh yeah, you're on a shape layer, you want to make more shapes. I don't. I want to make more masks. Give me the masks. And then we can just go here and we just rough it in like this. It doesn't need to be exact because that edge is thick enough to sort of take us through any of the rough points.
Nice.
So that's one way you could hide it in that way.
Yeah.
If you have a severe allergy to masks, some people do. It
Why?
happens. I don't know. Some people don't dig them. Masks are... We talked a little bit about how masks interact with effects, and that can sometimes get messy.
Mask is the gluten of animation.
That's right. Yeah, sure. If you're... Look, I don't want to throw shade on anyone who's gluten intolerant. I have friends who are gluten intolerant. It's a real problem. But in this case, you don't need to be afraid of masks at all. And if you want to use a Boolean operation, as we've done now, right? Because we've got we've got a repeater. Why don't we say, okay, let's add an ellipse to this group. Let's put this below the repeater. Please don't repeat this ellipse. All right. And make that ellipse this big, we'll say. And then let's add a merge paths, please. Now it's going to do bad things. So now it's going to give us this pinwheel here. And here's why this is happening. Because we have just asked it to do Boolean operations on over 100 different things.
Ooh.
So while this spins, I will explain why you don't want to do this. When you're using the long shadow in this way, you're essentially offsetting your own labor by pushing it onto your computer. It's not a very difficult task. Like, take this shape minus this shape. To us, we think very simple. I could take 2 pieces of paper, I could use scissors, I cut that out. I can do that. Why can't you do it? Well, the problem is that it has to calculate so many things around that. Is that the idea that, a circle to us is a line. To it is a complex formula that renders the line. So what I'm going to do is actually hit Control-Z, and hopefully it stops doing this, because I just broke things. But the thing is, you don't want to do too many operations that are going to tax things unnecessarily. If you can get away with a mask, use the mask. If you can get away with, spending 10 minutes on things instead of spending an hour on things, do that. But some things just require a lot of labor. And I think I just made it die. That's bad.
No, it's still calculating.
Okay, it's thinking. In the meantime,
you know what we could do in the meantime?
Yeah.
Maybe we can give away a Creative Cloud subscription.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's a good downtime.
Yeah, ooh, good timing. Okay,
let's dial up the old Paul machine.
If you want to get a chance to win a 1-year Creative Cloud subscription, you have to say a keyword in the chat, which is After Effects. So you can say, for instance, I love After Effects, I hate After Effects, but you have to say After Effects to enter the competition, and then we will pick someone in the chat. So we give you 2 minutes to be active because there is this delay, and then Paul will get the winner. Okay, and you will receive a 1-year Creative Cloud subscription, which is basically access to all the creative apps: Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere, After Effects, Dreamweaver, and Adobe Animate. We were talking about it, all the services, and also an access to Typekit. So for 1 year, 1 full year.
That's a lot of stuff.
What's the keyword again?
The keyword is After Effects, and this is coming. After Effects is awesome. Okay, and now we have some people entering the competition.
The competition is away.
Haha, so After Effects, yeah, it works, Ian. It works.
I'd love to be good at After Effects. Me too.
And now people wake up.
This is when we get a true sense of who's all awake
like,
at the
what?
thing.
What? What's happening?
This is good.
Okay, let's give them
Working on it. The
more
machine
time.
is
Just we will run the script in 15 seconds, and Paul let me know when we have a winner, and you will have to select the winner. You see what I mean?
yeah.
Make
We're
sure.
Going through.
And for the winners, we will send you a message on Google or YouTube. So pay attention to your message in the next, this week, okay? Because we will contact you to give you this 1-year Creative Cloud subscription. We have a lot of participants. Thanks for joining. Make sure to stay with us all day. We have a lot of speakers, and we will give away more Creative Cloud subscriptions during all the streams, okay? 1 per stream. Okay,
Wow.
let's say that.
That is
We're
huge.
Boom.
Yeah.
1 per stream. And Paul, do you have a winner?
Yes, looks like. we
Okay,
do.
so the winner is Michel
Jessom?
Jason or Michel Jessame. Michel, ma belle. Congratulations. So we will send you a message. Congratulations. And very lucky, Michel. You can say something in the chat if you are happy. And she's still saying After Effects is awesome. Yes.
It's still awesome.
You won. Okay, you can stop because there's this delay, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, congratulations, Michelle, and for the other
That's huge.
people in the chat, stay with us. We will give away all day long Creative Cloud subscriptions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So
What's happening with the computer?
computer's resolved its problem.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's great. We are back. So yeah, that's about it for the clock, though. We've done the clock thing. It's coming on. We've solved one long shadow based problem, right? Now, long shadows wouldn't be that great if we didn't also talk about how to stick them on words, right? Because that's what people like. People gotta put long shadows on letters. Letters love long shadows.
Nice.
So this is an A.
Yes.
It was a shape layer once. We don't have a lot of time because our next speaker
We
is
have
coming up soon.
15 minutes
Okay.
still.
So we'll try to breeze through this idea that if you've got a text layer, you can create shapes from that text layer, and then once you have shapes, then you can start messing around with those shapes. So let's make a fresh one maybe. So, I mean, someone type out a letter out there and we'll use that one. Someone typed a Z, but I don't think that's related.
It's not on purpose.
No.
Just type a letter.
Yeah. First person put a letter, we're going to use that
We'll give
one.
you 30 seconds.
What is the 30-second delay? That's a long time to wait.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on many things. The connection. I mean, we have people from all around the world.
That's
so
true.
when you think about it, like 30 seconds, it's just nothing.
Well, someone said Command S. I'm going to go with S.
As they say Z.
Oh, someone's back on Z.
Z, Z, S.
W's. You know what? I like Z. Now you know I'm from Canada because that's how I say that letter.
Z. Oh, you said Z, like in French.
Yeah.
Z. Okay.
Because half of Canada is French. It's a fun history fact.
Yeah. Okay, now we have the entire alphabet. Okay, so
Beautiful.
stay with us. We'll be live for 14 hours with Evan.
Yeah.
Who will animate each letter of the alphabet.
Every letter of the alphabet. That's not a bad idea for a project. So, to make text, very simply, we just go out here. We just type some text. You hit your Command T to bring that up. We're going to scale up the text quite a bit. And usually, we didn't talk about this a lot about flat design, but if you're using text in flat design, if you're using fonts, you want to use kind of a Swiss font. You want to use a sans serif going on. You want to use things that are very geometric, those kinds of things, just because that still complements the style. So we are going to use, there it is. And we're going to use, bold condensed. That looks fine. The Z has a lot of nice angles to it, which is going to make this a lot easier for us. Curves make things difficult for us, just because of the expected curve, the way shadows come off of circles. Anyway, so we've got this letter out there. All font is made of vectors. No, not all font. The good fonts are made of vectors. Some of them are made of bitmaps, though. So just be careful. If you're using a very fancy font and it's made of bitmaps, this won't work. But you can create some shapes from your text, just like that. Now that we have these shapes, we can call this like face shape, because this is going to be the front of it, the one that's going to have color, the one that's going to stand out from the background, the one that's going to be very interesting. So we could take that face shape and we'll probably want to make it a different color, but for now we'll duplicate it, and the one that was duplicated is called the shadow shape. And
so the font is Myriad.
Yep.
Myriad Pro.
Myriad Pro.
Adobe font.
I think that's what these icons are made of also. The ones
It's a mix of, it's a Myriad, The mnemonics,
So we've got the face shape. Let's make it a bright color, as we discussed before. Things that are on top that are closest to the sun are made bright. And this shadow, in here we already have a group. The group is the Z group. Within that is a path group called Z. Within that is also a stroke and a fill. We can get rid of the stroke. We don't need it. We're also going to duplicate within this contents, within the hierarchy, we're going to duplicate that to have Z2. And I'm duplicating it because what I want to do in here is alter its internal transformation stuff. So I'm not transforming the layer, I'm not transforming the first group, I'm only transforming the second group. So this is the level of minutia you can get into with these things. And then we're gonna take this off, we're gonna put it into space. It's gonna go down like this.
45 degrees.
Yeah, because that's what the style demands. And now we need to think some deep thoughts about what we're looking at. In fact, we don't need to look at the face. We need to think which facets are actually going to generate a shadow. right? And we need to draw some lines to make those. So I like using now we're actually going to touch the pen tool. One of the things that is going to happen is it's got to have a shadow coming from the top of this Z up here down to here, and then at which point it'll probably follow the contours of the whole thing. What else is going to be important? If it's coming off of this facet and this facet, then it should be basically this line that's being dragged off into space. So we can do like this, and we just kind of set keyframes, or we're just setting path points like this, and then we just line them up. This one doesn't have to be close. This one might need to be a little close, like this. Zoom back in here. Again, very close here. Come down here, kind of close like this. So we've constructed one part of the shadow, good for us, and we're going to want to take that path and put a keyframe on that path. Something else that might be important to us, this part here should be casting a shadow, right? Got to get those internal shadows. It's important. Same thing. We've selected the layer, we got the pen tool out, and it's just going to go across like this. Again, very rough stuff. All very, I don't know, kind of expressive. But as long as this kind of comes down into lines. But this thing is covered up, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about the difficult things. And really, this whole procedure is just to make sure this angle remains consistent and correct. Okay. Because if it goes in a bizarre way, we're not going to like it. And the last facet that we need to deal with is down here. It's this one right there. And this gets more complicated. I'm glad the first letter wasn't like a B, because...
Oh, yeah. With the curves,
yeah, I'll dig on that. And it's got the internal problems, right? So this thing here, we need to make sure that one is pretty close, or it's at least on line with where we're going. So this shadow looks correct, right? That's a correct shadow, kind of. Is this incorrect?
There's something wrong here.
Oh, there it is.
That's the
Shouldn't go that far.
No, I'm not
Here.
gonna, you gotta get this. Now we got the right angle.
beautiful.
Now we're talking. So this is the end state, and we want to make sure that all of these paths have that correct end state in their things like this. And now the Z will retract back up into there. So we select these keyframes, which are going to give us a handle on all of these. But all we really want to do is select these particular keyframes here, and we stick them back up where they came from, right like that. All right, so if we play this back, it kind of goes like that. Again, we talked about before, you want to make sure the motion on all of these is the same. So select all of these. We are going to hit F9. We're going to ease them. We're going to go into the graph editor. We've got them all displayed to us here in the graph.
Okay.
And we are looking specifically at that speed graph. If we looked at a value graph, it's very uneven because we're comparing apples to oranges in here. Like, we got position, that is a totally different property to talk about than paths, because paths really only have the speed they can talk about.
Okay.
Because
so in this case, you edit the speed graph.
we want to go to the speed graph, and we want to crush that first keyframe into there so that it's jumping into our frame, just like this. Boom, jumping, just like that. Now, something else I would recommend doing is if you look very closely. Very, very closely. We get really in here. You just get crazy in here. See this little dark patch here?
Yeah.
We can make it go away. That's creating a little bit of an outline here on the first frame. I'll just get rid of that. We don't need that first frame.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's nothing happening, right?
Good
The
point.
second frame is where things are
Then,
happening.
yeah.
That's where things are good. But something else you might want to think about, this is what we call ripping. So there's a conflict. We know in our minds that these two things are at the same exact spot. But in order for this to display it to us, it has to make a choice. It's got to choose which pixel do I show, should this is the anti-aliasing saying where things should be. So sometimes what I do is I just apply a little stroke to the outside of the top shape to just kind of, just one pixel.
Yeah.
Sometimes
make it the same color.
Yeah, and
Just to,
it's not very noticeable, and it really cleans up
Oh yeah.
this.
What's happening? Yeah.
Because imagine, you probably won't notice it if we're making one of them GIFs that we talked about, because it's going to be small, right? But if this is big, if this is on a billboard in Times Square, if this is banner size, if this is going to be displayed next to other 4K things,
and compressed, you can create some.
Because the other thing that happens is with compression, it has to make another hard choice.
Yeah.
Is that gray? Is that this color? Is it that color? And since we want to keep those colors limited, just do yourself a favor and do this.
It's a good trick.
Yeah. So there you go. This has been sort of an intro to some flat design, I think.
Yeah.
Talking long shadows. We're talking using colors to differentiate things. And the other 2 days, while I'm here, tomorrow and the next day,
what's next?
we're going to do more about flat design as well. So,
Okay.
I mean, we might as well do a little preview that I promised we were going
to. Evan will be back tomorrow, same time, on the Adobe YouTube channel. If you want to make sure you get the link, just visit adobelive.com and we'll put the link in the chat.
Yeah, and to give you an idea about what we'll be doing, you see this fun character, bobbing his head around. That's the kind of thing that we're going to be doing to take the things that we learned today and use them to make this.
Nice.
And we'll probably also use them to make this.
Whoa.
Which literally I could stare at this all day. It's so hypnotic.
Yeah, can you make that larger?
Yeah, let's make it.
Let's get the full
experience.
Oh yeah.
The waves.
There we go.
No, he dropped some frames.
And we're up to speed. There we
and
go.
now it's good.
That's nice. So this kind of thing where we're going to be having different layers of things. We're going to be getting deeper, pun intended, because we're going to be showing depth with parallax, like this fun scene, which I think, this nice little doggy on a roof.
Oh, parallax effect, yeah.
There we go. But you'll notice also the buildings, we're showing the depth of the buildings.
Oh yeah, That's a nice trick, I like it.
Yeah. It's all very simple stuff, but it's very fundamental design ideas, and that's sort of the takeaway here. And
and you have some committed followers like Merlin said, I will be there tomorrow. Thanks, Merlin.
Absolutely.
And also Evan proposed to share some sample files, like the working files today. So to find the projects, we will put them in the description of the YouTube videos. So, it will be easy to find.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll probably just break this file into day 1 file, day 2, day 3.
It's a good idea.
So we'll
let's do that.
Coming up next.
Yeah. So thank you, Evan. I mean, it was great. The replay, of course, will be available on the Adobe Creative Cloud channel. I will invite you to subscribe to the channel, and we will welcome our next motion designer or After Effects users, which is Chris Trini from Chris Court Productions, who will explain and teach us how to create cinematic look. So how to find the stream of Chris. So there are many ways. First way, you go on Adobe Live and you click on Chris' face. Okay, he won't be hurt. Like it's fine. It's just a picture. It's a PNG file. Okay. The other way is to check the YouTube video description, and you will find it. It says next stream, and you will get the link. And also, I put the link in the chat. So if you don't find it, I mean, really, guys, I don't know what to do. So next is Chris, and this is the link to the next live, which will start in about, let's say, 10 minutes, just to give us the time to, just plug some stuff, like basic stuff, set up something with a live stream. I mean, it's just
don't sell it short. There is a lot of highly technical stuff.
There are some great technical things. So now it's time to say thank you, Evan, in the chat. So thank you. Good job. And remember that if you want to share your animations, following all these advices, you can just create videos, share them on Twitter, and add the hashtag Adobe Live. Okay, we will monitor all your entries today, and tomorrow we will showcase the best entries. And even maybe you can do some critique, give some advices, and we'll give away more Creative Cloud subscriptions.
Yeah,
okay?
it'd be like Gordon Ramsay critiquing your food. It'd be great. We'll love it.
You suck.
No, I'm very nice, honestly. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and see you tomorrow, hopefully.
Okay, and see you in about 10 minutes with Chris Trini. Bye, guys. Bye.